What's up, fellas?
Coach Nichol?
How we doing?
Great, yourself?
Good.
Good. Guys, get your name in the chat, and we will start it off with whoever gets in there first. Go ahead, Joel Coleman.
Hey, Coach. I was asking Javante about this last night, but Coach Leach was discussing the other day about some of the receivers' routes and things, and I may be asking it wrong. I'm just an uneducated reporter, but just how some of the receivers' routes and things can kind of impact, the spacing on the field and that sort of deal. Just how big of a deal is that for this air raid offense and just every single guy running their route correctly?
Yeah, I mean, huge. Just like you said, every single guy, because somebody might pull a coverage, somebody might pull two guys with them to open up another thing. I mean, that's a big part of really playing against zone defense, is being where you're supposed to be. Some of our routes have exacts, so to speak, and then some of them don't. There's a little bit of a feel and getting on the same page with a quarterback. And that's what we got to keep working on, keep practicing. But yeah, there's a little bit of that, be where you're supposed to be, and that makes life a lot easier for the quarterbacks.
And just a quick follow-up to that, is that something that the last couple weeks has been an issue?
I mean, when you look at everything, yeah, based off the scores, I guess, the kids are working hard at it. Each practice, we keep getting more familiar. But yeah, and I don't think it really stems from like laziness. It's just, a little bit being unsure, and, we just got to do a better job of that.
Next, we'll go to Steve Robertson.
Coach, we've heard some talk about, not really sitting down in the zone and kind of running through the zone rather than finding the red spot to sit. Could you kind of take us through that?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is what it is. I mean, some of our routes, if, the old kind of adage is if it's man, you keep running. If it's zone, you sit. I mean, it's obviously more complicated than that. But, again, it goes back to just kind of defining what you're doing. It's that old fifth grade football. If you're doing it wrong, do it fast. I mean, there's something to that. Just so the quarterback has a really good feel on where you're supposed to be. You know what I mean? We got to do a better job of that. I got to do a better job of that. And, again, I know it sounds kind of boring, but just continuing to get on the same page and being where you're supposed to be, that's the most important thing.
Next, we'll go to Ben Portnoy.
Dave, you've seen A&M plenty from when you're at Tech. I guess, what was that rivalry kind of like, and what kind of stood out about those games?
Yeah, I mean, they were awesome. I mean, back then in the Big 12, I don't know, Texas Tech, we kind of hated Texas and A&M, and so it was a nice stretch for Coach Leach. And when I played between playing and coaching, I think I was like 8 out of 10 against them, but obviously a different team. But no, just real fun, a lot of alumni that and people you go to high school with. I've had a bunch of texts this week from some old Red Raiders that are pretty fired up, but totally different scenario. But yeah, kind of fun back that way a few years back.
And kind of following up on that, I mean, obviously having played and coached in those early years when Mike was in charge of Tech, I mean, what was it kind of like, building that culture and building that program, and kind of what went into that?
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, I had finished playing right when he got there. I mean, 3 weeks after I got done playing, they hired Coach Leach, so I started just helping them right then. But, I mean, the biggest thing, we were kind of a run-based offense. So all of our O-linemen were just wanting to road grade and just run block. That was a huge thing. You just quite frankly have to get kind of changed over. Early on, I remember feeling bad for Cliff Kingsbury at quarterback, but that was part of it, just the personnel on offense. And, but yeah, love it. Shoot, it's a great place. They love football, and Coach got it going pretty quickly.
All right, we will go back to Steve Robertson.
Coach, when you guys have some frustration, I know it carries over at times to practice. I mean, how do you feel like the guys have kind of flushed these last couple of weeks and kind of focused in on the game? And how would you kind of describe the attitude in practice?
Yeah, really good. I mean, Sunday was good. Yesterday was pretty good, and today was good. Tuesday you're always going to have a little bit of mistakes because you're tweaking some things, and it's the beginning of the week as far as some plays. But overall it's been good. It's like each day at receiver we're getting, kind of more and more, oh, okay, yeah, that's where it is. That's where the zone is. I got to keep running here. Coach, that was man coverage. There's just, we just got to keep running a bunch of routes, quite frankly. You know what I mean? And like I said, I got to do a better job. And so, but yeah, every day they're getting there and they're excited about doing it. And that's the biggest thing. They've been positive. It's been a positive week.
Next, we'll go back to Ben Portnoy.
Dave, kind of following up, I know you mentioned kind of the transition from the run to the pass, at least, with what y'all were doing at Tech. Is there any kind of comp there in terms of what y'all are doing here? I mean, obviously, Moorhead's offense was a little more run heavy. I mean, is there any kind of similarity there, if at all?
Well, I think the difference is all my old friends would be mad, but, the old linemen here just, they're pretty athletic too, so it wasn't as big of a transition from a standpoint of, some of our skill, and then the old linemen. We really like our offensive linemen. The transition is it's not so much body types, but scheme. You know what I mean? And that's okay. But sometimes it's like, all right, coach, and I'd say in my meeting, like, all right, you guys with me? Do I need to say that again? And just kind of learning. Totally different offense, really good offense before too, but just totally different as far as running and getting open, and that's where the transition, is just, it's part of the process. So, yeah.
Next, we'll go back to Steve Robertson.
Coach, looking at A&M on film, I know they've had some inexperience in the secondary, but it seems like they found a couple of playmakers back there. What have you kind of seen from them on film? What impresses you about them?
Yeah, they play hard. Pretty aggressive guys, which always to me says they're pretty confident, which, just watching tape moving around, they probably should be confident. So, that's probably the thing that's jumped off the most. And they, it sounds weird, but they get lined up pretty good. A lot of teams can get all messed up at certain times, but seem to be pretty comfortable with what their scheme calls for them to do.
Next, we'll go to Tyler Horka, and we have time for about one more.
Yeah, David, it happened while y'all were out on the practice field, but Coach Saban at Alabama tested positive for COVID, and I'm just curious what your experiences have been. It's been a while since we asked you about it, but getting tested, however many times you are getting tested, and then really he seemed pretty surprised by his diagnosis. So, how weird is it that at any given time you don't know if yours might come back positive, and then all of a sudden you're sitting at home when your team's got a big game against Texas A&M this weekend?
Yeah, no, every time somebody with a new role, so to speak, has it across the country, it's always like, well, it could be me easily, based off all kinds of stuff. We've done a good job, I think, as coaches and players, kind of being smart and who we're around, but it's just, it's just a crazy year. But yeah, it always enters your head when a certain buddy or a certain coach or a family member, you always, wow, that easily could be me. So just got to keep trying to do the right things, And
speaking to that, y'all seem to have been fine and stayed pretty healthy, especially all the players. What can you say about that, and how much of a testament is it to them that they've done the right things?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those knock on wood deals. We think, obviously we can't control everything where our guys go and that kind of stuff, but I think they've tried to make an effort to be smart and with what they do and where they go, and we got to do the same as coaches. I feel like they've tried to be good, and are listening to. We have a really good training staff, and yeah, I know that sounds boring, but I think that's all you can do. There's a lot of, some of our guys back in the summer that did get it had no idea why, from a standpoint of who they've been with, or, a lot of them go home and play video games forever. They're just like, hey, how did I even get it? So, yeah, we just all got to be aware.
Last call for questions for Coach Nichol. All right. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Okay. Thanks, fellas.